Should you cry or laugh? The announcement came yesterday afternoon. Interest rates are stuck to the ground, and the Federal Reserve will continue to inflate its balance sheet. Significant progress has been made towards the committee's targets for maximum employment and price stability. We expect the committee to be busy for a very long time. Jim Rickards predicts that pre-epidemic growth rates will not return until 2023 and pre-pandemic unemployment levels by 2025. Meanwhile, Congress is approaching a new stimulus agreement. The palms should still be oiled, the backs still stretched, the arms still should be bent. Horses must still be traded. If there is no deal by midnight tomorrow, Congress will have to allow a short-term spending decision, otherwise the government will close. Do not worry though, government never goes down. The federal workers required for the security of the Republic, for example Ketchikan, would remain at the customs officer in Alaska. The Transport Safety Agency would still protect the airlines against babies, great-grandmothers, and the associated Hellcats. Social security checks would still go through the mail. In case of a national invasion, sailors would answer the pipe. Of course, Congress would never allow a real government to be shut down. One tries to compromise on the other, first to blink. The other is following an identical strategy, but they agree in the hours of death. Neither will agree to shut down the government. The next political struggle was thus reduced to a show, a professional wrestling competition with its artificial blows and imitation blood. The result is staged. Congress will adopt an immediate spending decision. Soon he will pass the incentive bill. Estimates bring the thing closer to $1 trillion. $1 trillion is a big number, but large numbers dull the sober senses. Large bottles of wine dull the sober senses. At a certain point, they become more abstractions. They glaze the eyes, they stun. Therefore, let's reduce the airy abstract to concrete. How to estimate $1 trillion? The Non-Profit Employment Policy Institute places $1 trillion in this perspective. Let's say someone told you to wait for something. If you waited 1,000 seconds, it would only take about 17 minutes. If you waited 1 million seconds, you would have to wait about 11.5 days. But if you waited 1 trillion seconds, you have to wait 31,688 years. Imagine you can do it. 1 trillion seconds is 31.688 years. But we are a financial bulletin. We are interested in money. How much time does it take to print $1 trillion? Suppose you are commanded to the press, but you are limited to printing $1 billion. You are extremely energetic, and so 365 days out of 365, you print $1 billion every second of every day from midnight to midnight. Again, how much time does it take to print $1 trillion? Author Bill Bryson. If you initiate $1 per second, you will make $1,000 every 17 minutes. After 12 days of non-stop effort, you would acquire your first $1 million. Thus, it would take you 120 days to accumulate $10 million and 1,200 days, something over 3 years, to reach $100 million. After 31.7 years, you would become a billionaire. But not until after 31,709.8 years. Would you count your trillionth dollar? 31,709.8 years. You can wipe the sweat in front of you and sit down in 33,729. 12,412 life. Think of another massiveness. National debt currently reaching $27.4 trillion. You depend on fragility in government. Every dollar you print, so you retire the country's debt. So we multiply 31,709.8 years by 27.4. Here's what we learned. Reducing today's $27.4 trillion debt to $0 requires 868,848.52 years of uninterrupted labor. Start today and the job ends on May 870,868. Assuming the Almighty gave you 3 points and 1070 years, you would need 12,412 lifetimes to retire your debt. The numbers can scare you. You may find your future bleak. Still, consider the alternative. Would you rather spend those 868,848.52 years blushing in hell? The Bible is pretty clear. Sinners will not inherit God's kingdom. Next, we come to a less gaudy but equally illogical figure, though 30,000. On the contrary, though 30,303. Does this make sense? As the virus blows up, new lockdowns are looming across the country. The mayor of New York even threatens a total lockdown. If conditions deteriorate, other cities may follow. GDP contracted by 34.2% annually during the spring lockdown in the second quarter of 2020. What will be the number of Q1 2021? We do not know. Still, we expect another recession. Meanwhile, the economy created 195,000 fewer jobs than economists predicted last month, and renewed lockdowns would kick millions out of their jobs. Yet, everything is joy on Wall Street. The stock market is rising to a record level. Why is that? Mr. Arthur Hogan is the chief market strategist at National Securities. He said recently, "You have investors that seem to be able to look through the tsunami of negative economic data and earnings and toward the potential for a gradual reopening of the economy. Yet a recent survey reveals that half of all small business owners do not expect to survive until 2021, except for generous government aid. But let's assume only 25% of them have sunk. Millions and millions of Americans would still sink in the wreck. If 70% of the economy of the United States is consumption, those are millions and millions that will consume less. Reducing the future. If the stock market is dropping the future so reliably, he must believe that the economy is a nice trick in the shirt sleeve. Either the stock market is correct or the economy doesn't have as much trickery as its shirt. We don't believe it's the secret. You know why the stock market is trading at record levels. You know it's not because of bright economic prospects. You know it's largely due to the Federal Reserve and fraud. You also know that over time it will probably end in grief. About 20,000 years ago, the Roman historian Valerius Maximus said, "Divine wrath is indeed slow in terms of revenge, but he makes up for his delay with the severity of the punishment." Most of idea, comment, information, and criticism containing in these videos have been created by Daily News Report. Before making any important investment decision, use the information contained in these videos as a starting point for conducting your own research. If you make any investment or legal decision, it is advised to consult an expert before making this decision.